In this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about Pluto. And I don't just mean the planet slash dwarf planet Pluto. I'm going to talk about Pluto, the Roman god, and his counterpart, Hades. And eventually, I'm going to talk about what this has to do, in my mind, with America. So we'll get to that soon. So I'm going to talk about what this has to do with money and water and even death. Okay? So let's start with this. I'm just going to share some things I dug up on the internet. I'm not an expert on this stuff by any means. I just did some simple searches, and Pluto's been on my mind. So here's about Pluto versus Hades. So I took this screenshot here. It says, the two, Hades and Pluto, had many similarities. Hades is the Greek god of the underworld, and Pluto was also the god of the underworld in Roman mythology. But the major difference between the two was that Pluto was also the god of wealth because of the minerals that were found under the earth. So perhaps you're familiar with the term plutocracy or plutocrat. So the root word there is Pluto, obviously. So one definition of the word plutocracy is the rule or power of wealth or of the wealthy. So we got to talk about Trump a little bit, right? Because, I mean, he's a famous plutocrat. Think about it. This man came to power, and would we have known about Trump had it not been for money? A definition of the word plutocrat is one who has power or influence due to his wealth. Very fitting for Trump. Anyway, so that's an example of a plutocrat. And, of course, like I said, comes from the word Pluto, Roman god of wealth and of the underworld. Now, his counterpart was Hades, the Greek god Hades of the underworld. So you may have heard of the rivers of Hades, the famous or infamous river Styx. I'm not going to get much into that, but just thinking about rivers, this has to do with water. So this is the segue here into water. And death. Okay, so in English extended gematria, the word death equals 218. Now, one thing that I looked into about 218 was that Pluto was discovered, supposedly, on February 18th, a date which can be written 218. Now, on the internet, you can get probably a couple of different dates, but the most common date I've come across is 218. So 218 is also the cusp of Aquarius. So if you look at the horoscope pages in the newspapers and magazines, you're going to see Aquarius, the cusp, when it goes into Pisces, it's February 18th, 218. And like I said, death equals 218, and Pluto in mythology was, in part, ruler of the underworld. So you think about death, you think about underworld. Again, he was also in charge of wealth, money. There's a lot of money terms that remind us of water, and I'll get into that in a minute, but just about the 218, we talked about Trump, the plutocrat. Trump was living in the White House. He was president at the time when the White House had been open officially for 218 years. You can look this up, do the math, it's pretty simple. So Trump was living in the White House 218 years after it officially opened. Trump was elected 218 days before his birthday. If we use all capital letters in the Francis Bacon cipher, Trump equals 218. Now, see, we're using all caps. This guy's full of himself, sure. We could look into that, but That's a case-sensitive cipher. You have to use all capital letters. And you think about capital, you can think about money. That's a money term, capital. And this cipher is called Francis Bacon. I've talked about how bacon can be a money term. Talked about my Squid Game decode with the big piggy bank, player number 218 and all this. But it's Francis Bacon. Frank is also a money term. But anyway, Trump was impeached for an unprecedented second time, and that impeachment occurred 218 weeks after he won the election, his election. And of course, Trump had the presidential alert. A lot of people were freaking out about this. It went out to all our cell phones at 2:18 White House time. But just going back, 2:18 also makes me think of the cusp of Aquarius. And you think about Aquarius, it's aqua, it's water. Pisces is fish, so that cusp is fish into water, or vice versa. See, in the horoscope pages, it's Aquarius and then Pisces. But if you think about the ages, we're going into the age of Aquarius and all this. That's going backwards, Pisces into Aquarius. So the cusp is often said to be February 18th, 2:18. So let's think about water and money. So there's a lot of money terms that are shared with water. For instance, if you're heavily in debt, you might say you're underwater, or you're drowning in debt. You know, I talked about that stuff in the Squid Game decode. And I think that Pluto, in a way, is being venerated in that show. Especially with the money, water, and death. Not to spoil the whole show, but spoiler alert. The end of the Squid Game is pouring rain. The big final fight. The two characters facing off, one of them happens to be, spoiler alert, player number 218. It's pouring rain. Now, if you go back to episode 2 labeled Hell, think about Hell, Hades. Episode 2, it was a bit of a false start. They started the games, and then the characters go home for a bit, and then they come back, but they're invited back, and it's pouring rain for a few of the characters. What stands out to me was player 218 was talking to his mother on the phone on her end. She was in Korea, I believe, and it was pouring rain, and he was in the United States of America. And after he got off the phone, he got into a tub, a bathtub, and I think he was about to kill himself. And he was fully dressed, got into this tub, and the doorbell rings. He gets out of the tub, soaking wet, like I said, fully dressed, and he gets his invitation card to the Squid Game. And think about squid. Of course, squid is a being that hangs out in the water, doesn't it? But yeah, this guy, the first time we see him invited to the Squid Game, he is soaking wet. And he was about to kill himself, and then at the, spoiler alert, at the end, his end, he was in pouring rain, and he also tries to kill himself, and this time succeeds. Or so we think as the viewer. So I think that Pluto is being venerated there, and we see associations with water, as I've shown. And of course, you got the rivers of Hades. Hades is the counterpart of Pluto. But anyway, so these money terms, right? So it reminds me of this joke, where do fish keep their money? They keep it in the riverbank. Riverbank. Think about liquid assets. What is liquidity ratio? Think about current assets. Think of the river current, currency, liquidation sale. Think about that old nursery rhyme, or whatever, the poem, Sally with her seashells. They're for sale. Think about a sail. That's a money term, sail, but also a sailboat. I mean, there's no shortage of money terms that remind us of water. Think about when you're on the beach and there's, shells, sea Shells. Well, there's a... You ever hear of shell out money? I shelled out a lot of money. Anyway, so that's money terms, bringing us back to the cusp of Aquarius and supposedly Pluto. That's Pluto Day, when Pluto was supposedly discovered on 2/18. Death equals 2/18. So we're going to talk about Pluto Demotion Day as well. So Pluto officially got demoted on the 21st of, the 24th of August. You can write that date, 248. And it just so happens that many websites will tell you that Pluto has an estimated orbital period of 248 years. So it says Pluto takes 248 years to orbit the sun. So let me tell you why this makes me think of America. Okay, so 248 years after America supposedly became free will bring us to a very special year. We're going to see this has to do a bit with that second big Great American Total Solar Eclipse. It's going to happen in the year 2024. So remember, the first one was the 21st of August back in 2017. And then the second big one is in 2024. And that will be that year America will turn 248 years old. And now, there's a little time conversion here, 2024. If you think about that as military time, 20 hours, 24 minutes. That brings us to 8:24 p.m. So think about 8:24. Think about August 24, 8:24. And again, we can write that date, 24/8. Pluto demoted day is 24/8. Pluto takes 248 years to orbit the sun. So I'm not going to claim a prediction here. I mean, a lot of people say that we're in trouble financially, or they see doom and gloom ahead. But, I mean, think back to very recently. I think it was the beginning of this year, on February 18th, the Mars rover landed, Perseverance. And there's a whole thing about that. I'll leave a link for my video about that, involving 666 days and whatever. But Perseverance, we're told, landed on February 18th, and it was scheduled to land then. They even changed the launch date, if I remember correctly, but they kept the landing date, February 18th, 2/18, Pluto Day. You know, supposedly Pluto was discovered on 2/18. So we get this. It's a rover that landed on Mars, okay? Mars is the god of war. Pluto, god of the underworld and money. So, you know, I'm not an expert on these astrology things and stuff, but, you know, certain aspects mix, and we think of death, money, war. I don't know. It doesn't look good, but who knows? You know, we're supposedly we're heading into, and some people say we're already there, into the age of Aquarius. You know, the cusp of Aquarius is 2/18. Maybe it's just a new age. It's the end of the age of plutocracy. You know, there's a lot of plutocrats around, right? Oh, to some of the gematria people out there, I'm pretty sure I saw that the word plutocratic has a match in all of the base ciphers with Donald Trump. Take that however you will. But yeah, I just saw this a picture of Donald Trump wearing a hat. Instead of Make America Great Again, it says Make America Plutocratic Again.